Have you ever wanted to play a Pokemon game where you get to create your very own Pokemon? Well, now you can in Pokémon Infinite Fusion. Pokémon Infinite Fusion is a fan game that allows players to not only use Pokemon, but actually create entirely new combinations by fusing Pokemon together. In this video, we're going to be talking about the setup for Pokémon Infinite Fusion, we're going to be talking about the map of Pokémon Infinite Fusion, all the different Pokemon in Infinite Fusion that you can fuse together, and then finally all of the different gimmicks. There are a lot of different gimmicks in this game, so I encourage everyone to stick around till the end. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe, that way you can stay up to date on all my game reviews and additional content. To get this video going, let's start with the setup of Pokémon Infinite Fusion. Pokemon Infinite Fusion is a little bit unique in how it's set up. It's not a traditional ROM hack kind of game. It is more classified as a fan game that runs on its own. So what you would do is go to the Pokemon Infinite Fusion website and download the file that best works for your device. They have both desktop versions and mobile. Fair warning though, you need to make sure that your device has plenty of storage because there is a lot of data within this game file because it encompasses so many different files and things of that nature. And it's pretty easy to play. Once you get it all downloaded, once you get it all set up, you just double click it. It is like a traditional desktop application if you're on a desktop device, such as a PC game and things of that nature. So once that gets going, you can begin playing Pokemon Infinite Fusion very easily. But once you open Pokemon Infinite Fusion, you'll find that there's some different ways that you can go about playing this game. One of the big ones is, of course, just a traditional playthrough where you play the game as it normally does. You're running through Kanto and, you're just catching Pokemon as they come. There's nothing crazy about any of it. You're fusing Pokemon, you're defusing Pokemon, all that good stuff. But what you can also do is open some different play styles. So there are options such as randomization, which you can customize once you opt in for the randomization option, as well as there's different difficulty modes. I will say I played on easy difficulty mode and I still found that pretty challenging. So those of you that are moving up to the hard challenge mode, good luck. Let me know how it goes in the comments. And now let's move on to the story of Pokemon Infinite Fusion. Pokemon Infinite Fusion, at its heart, is essentially just Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green. It is the classic story of running through Kanto, trying to become the Pokemon champion, while also taking down Team Rocket. The biggest difference is that Team Rocket has a different goal in this game, where in the traditional Pokemon games, Team Rocket has just kind of the goal of theft. They actually, in Pokemon Infinite Fusion, have the goal of creating a triple fusion Pokemon. The stakes are a little bit higher now with Team Rocket in Pokemon Infinite Fusion. They have a little bit more to go with. They have a little bit more of a motive, not just, like petty theft of stealing people's Pokemon, but stealing people's Pokemon in order to use them as test subjects. So that's a really, really unique addition to the story. Additionally, for the story, you have side quests, which is a growing popular thing to get added to fan games and ROM hacks. You'll have people throughout this region that will give you special prizes, special items, even in some cases, I believe, Pokemon eggs for completing little side tasks. And it's really cool because you can do these as you play the game, you can do these post-game, it really doesn't matter. But it's really unique because you're actually able to explore more of the world and feel like there's a little bit more to the story than just completing the gyms and taking down Team Rocket. And like I said, it's a pretty faithful story, so the map is also pretty faithful to the world of Kanto. The coolest thing about this is that a lot of the areas did get a redesign, and with some of the story points, you do go to new custom areas. Like there's a sewage area you go into to track down Team Rocket. There's a couple little side paths within forest and caves, usually attached to side quests. That's kind of the cool thing too, is that there's new places to explore when you talk to other NPCs in the game, because they'll try to send you places or they'll try to task you with different things. So it's kind of neat that you can explore Kanto in a slightly different way. It's still though pretty much the exact same map. And moving on to what usually is everyone's most anticipated spot in the video, but for Pokemon Infinite Fusion, I think the gimmick section is going to be way more traffic to that. The Pokemon in Pokemon Infinite Fusion currently go from generations 1 through 7, so you can find Pokemon from the traditional Kanto region all the way up to Alola. And that's really, really cool when you hit the randomizer mode, because you can find lots and lots of different combinations, and I'll get more into that in the gimmick section. But it's really, really cool because they do a good job of spacing out the Pokemon, and luckily when you do the randomized option, you can kind of keep it to where it's like Pokemon of similar strength, and there's so many that it does kind of work out. It doesn't really break the world building too much of like, oh, why is a Pidgey up here in the mountaintops? Like, luckily Kanto is a pretty neutral region, I would say, where you pretty much have grasslands, caves, and some forested areas. So there's not a whole lot of biodiversity that would really ruin the story building, but it's fun to be able to play with tons and tons of Pokemon. Hopefully maybe in later iterations they add in more Pokemon, but this game is already massive, so I can't imagine the undertaking that would go into adding even more Pokemon. And finally, this is going to be a big chunk of the video. I could probably make a whole video on the gimmicks alone in Pokemon Infinite Fusion. Right off the bat, the biggest gimmick that I think most people are familiar with is the idea of fusing Pokemon. And this was a really unique way to add in this new feature that I feel like a lot of people, I guess, have been asking for. I don't know if people have been asking for it. If you look at fan art communities, I mean, there's tons of people fusing Pokemon or creating new variations of Pokemon. So I feel like this kind of scratches that itch for a lot of people. But how it works, so fusing Pokemon is, I didn't realize this is how it worked when I first played the game. I thought it was maybe like a machine or something where you could fuse and unfuse constantly. That is unfortunately not the case. What it is an item. So in the shops, you can actually buy fusion items and defusion items. And as you progress in the game, they get a little bit stronger so that you can fuse stronger Pokemon with maybe weaker Pokemon and keep that higher level cap, because they do a really good job of balancing out the Pokemon you fuse together. So if you, say for example, fuse a level 30 Pokemon with a level 5 Pokemon, they'll kind of meet in the middle and it might lean a little bit more towards that level 30. But that's kind of the interesting thing about this, is that the game does keep track of the Pokemon's individual leveling, it seems, as well as once you fuse it together, what their leveling should be. Like, I defused a Pokemon that was level 40, and the defused Pokemon were not level 40. They were of different levels from each other, and they just happened to equal level 40. So that was also a really unique way to play the game. Always kind of keeping in mind that, okay, if I fuse a really, really weak Pokemon with a really, really strong Pokemon, I might end up being under-leveled, and it might be way late in the game. Luckily, they do have super fusion items that kind of help negate this, so you can keep that higher level of that Pokemon, but still create a really cool fusion, as well as a lot of Pokemon have dual typings that do play a factor in this. So if you have a Pokemon that is, say for example, a Fairy Steel type, and you're fusing it with a Fire Flying type, there's a version that's going to take the Fairy typing and mix it with the Flying typing, and there's a version that's going to take the Steel typing and mix it with the Fire typing. And luckily you can swap in between these. If you're looking for, like, say, if you wanted it to be like Fairy Fire, you'd have to kind of find a different Pokemon. You do have to play a little, you have to think a little bit of like the matchmaking side of things to make sure you're getting the desired type combinations you want. Honestly, it's just really fun to fuse and defuse them and adjust your team as you go. And speaking of adjusting your team, you're gonna have to, because the gyms in Pokemon Infinite Fusion operate very differently from other Pokemon games. So in most traditional Pokemon games, including most fan games and ROM hacks, when you go to a Pokemon gym, you can go in with as many Pokemon as you want, even if the gym leader only has 2 to 3 Pokemon. But in Pokemon Infinite Fusion, you have to go into the gym battle with the same number of Pokemon as the gym leader. And obviously as you go through the game, you get to add more and more Pokemon. But this is really unique to me because it allows, I feel like, for a greater fluidity among your team building. When you go into, say, Brock's gym, you can only bring in 2 to 3 Pokemon. So you have to make sure that you pick the best Pokemon. Otherwise, you're gonna lose. You're gonna lose that battle. I mean, like, no other Pokemon game does this. I feel like it's smarter because I feel like that's where people get a lot of the Pokemon games are too easy mentality, is that you can go into a gym with only 2 Pokemon, but you're running a team of 6. So what's really unique about Pokemon Infinite Fusion is that they put everyone on the same level. So you gotta go in with the exact number the gym trainer has, and If it works out, it works out. Otherwise, keep building that team. And then with all the different type combinations, with all the different fusions, and like having to deal with moves and having to figure out what Pokemon will keep what moves, they did add in the top of the Pokemon Center a move reminder. So that's really, really cool, because numerous times when my Pokemon were defused or fused together, they would lose moves that I wanted them to have. I can't tell you how many times my Pokemon lost the move Psychic. So I would have to go to that move reminder, that move tutor character, and add in the moves that you'd want. A lot of times I did go into battles not realizing that the moves were completely different after defusing or fusing a new Pokemon together. So definitely keep tabs on your moves, and definitely make sure you use the move reminder so that you can continually have the strongest Pokemon possible. Also upstairs in the Pokemon Center is Wonder Trading. I don't think this is actually trading with other people. I'm not 100% sure, but the cool thing about the Wonder Trading is that you do get a unique fused Pokemon sent to you when you exchange a Wonder Trade ticket, which you get from defeating gym leaders. The one caveat with this is that you cannot defuse the Pokemon you get from Wonder Trades, which is pretty unique. I mean, I will say, similar to nicknames in Pokemon games and whatnot, it's a way to keep that connection to the original trainer. It's really unique for individual lore building, as well as just overall gameplay of the Pokemon will not defuse for you because a bond was created with its past trainer. But you can flip the fusion around, so that's also pretty fun. Another big gimmick of Pokémon Infinite Fusion is the lack of HMs. So you do have HMs initially, but they did a really good job of adding in these extra little side missions so that you can get tools to allow you to use HMs without having to worry about having a Pokemon that can learn that HM. Among the many famous things about this game, probably one of the most famous things is that you can go through multiple regions, and that's a really unique post-game thing that I have still yet to explore. I believe you can go through all the way to Generation 3. Don't 100% quote me on that. I'm pretty sure you can go to Generation 3. I know you can go, once you're done in Kanto, you do get to go complete Johto, and that's a really unique aspect of it as well. They do a really good job though, because you can go to Johto pretty early on in the game. So once you defeat Sabrina, you can go over to Johto to get some additional evolutionary items, but they set up roadblocks, so you can't progress any further than, I believe it's Goldenrod. So, but you can still catch some cool Pokemon over there that might be more Johtonian Pokemon that you can't find over in the Kanto region. They do keep the level scaling going up. That's the one downside, is that while you might run into lower level wild Pokemon, the gyms and the people you fight are still going to be a little bit higher level. So keep that in mind. You can't fully start over, unfortunately, but it's still a pretty unique gimmick to be able to go to Johto, and I believe you can go to Hoenn, and the whole thing just kind of keeps going, and you can just keep fusing more and more Pokemon, collecting more and more gym badges. Another really cool thing about this game, there are so many different things to talk about in this game. Another really cool thing is the custom sprites. So that's also a really unique feature, is that a lot of talented artists went in and created unique fused sprites. While not all of them have a unique custom sprite, plenty of them do, and it's really, really fun because you get some amazing combinations, you get some beautiful looking Pokemon, even the ones that you've only really maybe traditionally seen in 3D games, they translate super well over to the 2D models. And honestly, kudos to all the artists that worked on Pokémon Infinite Fusion. They make the game look absolutely fantastic and really bring you into the world, because even the Pokemon eggs are unique to the Pokemon that was in them. I first found a Pokemon egg and I was really confused by what it was going to be because it had a unique pattern to it, and then turns out that pattern correlated to the Pokemon that was within the egg. So again, lots of really unique art styles in this game, and it's really, really fun to play through. Overall, Pokémon Infinite Fusion was a fantastic game to play. It was a really, really unique version of a Pokemon game. I've never played where I could fuse Pokemon together before. While there were some things that were definitely a little bit frustrating about the game, such as the level scaling type stuff, and also the having to buy the fusion items, I wasn't a big fan of that. I do understand why, like this is how it would best work for the game, but it was one of those things of, already in Pokemon games, I feel like sometimes if you're, especially if you're a challenge, if you're doing if you're trying to just buy up a bunch of different items you might need, and if you want to fuse a bunch of Pokemon together, those do cost money, so it's one of those things that's just an extra thing to spend money on within Pokemon. But overall, it was a fantastic game. I had a blast playing it on my live streams, and I hope everyone else enjoys playing Pokemon Infinite Fusion as well. If you're looking to figure out how to download Pokemon Infinite Fusion, if you go to the Pokemon Infinite Fusion website, they have everything there, as well as a Discord you can join to get regular updates about the game and to see what's coming up for Pokemon Infinite Fusion. Thank you all for watching, and thank you to those who are subscribed to the Quoorn's Quest channel. I do appreciate it, and make sure that if you're not yet subscribed, hit that subscribe button. That way you always get notified when I have a new video, such as game reviews, challenge videos, or new live streams. Again, thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate it, and until next time, happy questing, y'all.